Moving in from Chicago, newcomer Ren McCormick is in shock when he discovers the small Midwestern town he now calls home has made dancing and rock music illegal. As he struggles to fit in, Ren faces an uphill battle to change things. With the help of his friend Willard and the defiant teen Ariel, he might loosen up his conservative town, but Ariel's influential father, Reverend Shaw Moore, stands in the way. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode, we'll be covering 1984's Footloose, directed by Herbert Ross.
Hey, what's this I see? I thought this was a party! Let's dance!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Midnight Double Feature. More importantly, welcome to fucking Footloose. This podcast is rated E for explicit, by the way, or not E for everyone. But the Ariel to my Ren, the Domo Origato to my Mr. Roboto. Zohab Ali, how you doing, buddy?
Hello? I don't know how to react to that. Dude, like, I threw up my hands being like, the fuck?
I love doing those to you, where it's like the peanut butter to my jelly. You're like, what the fuck?
Oh no, Matt does it to me all the time on upcoming attractions. He's just like, like last week, he's like, Z-Boy, what's up? And he's like, all right. I'm just like, cool.
Z-Boy.
But yeah, I'm good, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm pumped. I'm ready to jump into this movie. This was my pick. Fucking Footloose. I love dragging you to make you watch these things.
If you can't tell already, this is Colin's pick.
I love dragging him to watch this stuff. So if this is your first time tuning in, guys, we are Midnight Double Feature. We are going to talk about the movie in order sequentially, and we're going to be spoiling it. I don't know if you're listening to this and you've never watched Footloose. I don't know what to tell you. Get your life together, for one thing. But the so it's like maybe man. So it's like I didn't watch this.
What are you talking about?
But guys, like I said, the podcast is rated E for explicit. If this is your first time listening and you enjoy the show, write us a review on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. If you want to find us outside the show, you can find us at midnightdoublefeature.com, where you can find our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. It's $5 a month if you want a bunch of bonus content that we've been kind of stacking up on lately. I think we're pushing towards 20 episodes now. We've got a lot of shit going in there, so I'm pumped.
Yeah, I just wanted to plug what we've got on there because I just kind of like made a post the other day on our socials, but that is growing. We just got off got ourselves off. We just recorded episode 18 of that feed, and we just did Paranormal Activity as a feature presentation. And if you are on this feed here at Midnight Double Feature and you are hanging out for feature presentations more than upcoming attractions, then the green room is for you because we have a bunch of feature presentations on there, including the 1999 Mummy. We have the Daredevil, the 2003 film, Child's Play 2, Freddy vs. Jason, House of Wax, Reservoir Dogs. That's a huge one. The Dead Zone, Marvel's The Avengers is on there as well. Final Destination.
Got a lot of stuff on there now.
Yeah, Double Dragon. And then, between, whenever we don't do feature presentations, we also have other bonus episodes where, we kind of like get together and talk, come up with a topic and like talk about it. So, we've done one, we call them Shooting the Shits. And we've done one where, we talked about movies we've just straight up walked out on, which was fun. And then we kind of like took a retrospective and like looked back at our podcast episodes and, which one would we kind of like remake if we could, which was a fun episode. So we have a lot of fun there on the green room. And if you're not following it, I think it's definitely become worth $5 a month. It's definitely grown into its own thing. So, and look, we're an independent podcast. We don't have sponsorship. We don't have any of that kind of stuff or advertising. We fund this right out of our own pockets.
We're not getting shit from Audible. We're not like those other podcasts. We ain't getting shit.
Right, exactly. So, look, we depend on you guys, the listeners, to help us out where you can. And for $5 a month, I think we're doing pretty well and giving back. So. Yeah,
hell, well, and it's awesome. You're signing up right now. You haven't signed up yet. You get all the shit that these people have to wait for since day one. They're always like Jones, and they're just at the foot of our bed, always just scratching. Like, hey boys, when you gonna drop another episode? And I'm like, all right, calm down there.
They're just tapping their fucking vein.
just me smacking somebody with like a cane, like, all right, back up. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much our intro. Jumping right into Footloose. I'm very curious what your thoughts are, because this was my pick. I grew up with this movie. This is a very big movie where I'm from. And it's not a typical kind of movie that I would enjoy, dancing and stuff like that. Like, I like Rent, I like musical-esque like movies and stuff. I like some musicals, but I don't really like Grease. I don't really like, High School Musical, and like a lot of movies that are kind of like this. But this one's just really, really, really nostalgic for me. And it was on Hulu, and I was like, man, I really had just been feeling this movie lately. I have a lot of fond memories of it. So I just wanted to pick it and knock it out, because I felt like it was kind of a curveball for you too. So what did you think about Footloose, 1984?
So I'm coming into this movie for the first time in 2021. I've never seen this movie, never seen the remake either. I'm good. I'll pass on that. Thank you very much.
No, yeah.
Which, by the way, was directed by Craig Brewer, who is directing Coming to America, the sequel.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, the remake is a smishmortion. It's awful. It's terrible. They basically hired two dancers. They're not really it's Julianne Hough, who's primarily a dancer, right, and then the other guy.
But Dennis Quaid is the Reverend, which is awesome.
Yeah, Miles Teller is the best friend. Like, there's
nice.
There's definitely people in it, and they got, like, I don't know, Brad Luke Paisley Jr., whoever, to redo Footloose. I don't know who the fuck it is, and it sounds terrible, but it's like it's way more of like a country version of Footloose than like, this is Midwest, whereas like the 2011 one might be like Alabama or Georgia. Right. Like it's very Southern.
I remember the trailer for that had like explosions and shit. I'm just like, isn't this about dancing? Yeah. Like, I was like,
exactly. Yeah. Right. The most violent thing is somebody throws a brick through a window. Well, no, that's not true. They all beat the shit out of each other, but
right.
An explosion. It's just the trailer for Footloose intercut with like shots from First Blood.
Like Michael Bay.
Yeah. I want to dance in this town. just guys on the beach in Normandy just getting ripped up.
Dude, the score, like the music, like Footloose, the song is replaced by like a big Hans Zimmer score. It's just like,
I would die to see like the Ghost of You, My Chemical Romance video, but it's Footloose over it. Like,
but look, I'm coming into this film for the first time in 2021, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. For me, never having seen this movie, it's because this movie, very much like The Karate Kid, is such a classic story. Like, it's a story that you hear all the time. Like, it's just like, it's kind of like permeated sort of like popular culture in that, like, okay, The Karate Kid's about an outsider who comes into this like new school, gets bullied a lot, has to learn karate to overcome his fears. Mm-hmm. Footloose is a film about, a guy comes in from out of town and gets settled into a society where dancing is illegal and has to overcome that. Right? I mean, like, it's a story that you've heard 1,000 times, and not that it's been done in movies, over and over again. It actually hasn't. It's actually really unique in that way. But like, I sat down and I watched this movie knowing exactly what it was. Like, I sat down and I was like, I know what this is. I know that this is a movie where Kevin Bacon comes into this town, which is very conservative, which has all of these like laws about, like not being able to dance, and, all the kids eventually have to overcome that.
Right.
And in that way, I sat down and I'm just like, there were no surprises for me at all in this movie. And that made this movie really, really unbearable for me to watch.
You didn't like it?
It's not that I didn't like it. Actually, you know what? I didn't like it. I didn't like it, and I didn't love it. And I think it's just because I'm coming into this so late. Like, I just didn't feel there was like nothing really challenging for me about this movie. Like, it was just like everything has been, through the course of time, this movie's been ruined for me because I've just heard so much about this movie. like I've just been, everything about this movie has been permeated in everything else, like The Simpsons or Family Guy, whatever, like The Avengers, like everything has covered this in one way or in another, so much so that it ruins this first experience coming into it. Mm-hmm. Nearly 4 decades later. Like, it's just like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, and that just this type of movie is not really made anymore,
No.
Like this was very, well, I don't want to cut your thoughts off. Go ahead.
No. The only thing I was really going to say is that I really like Kevin Bacon in this movie, but I think he's outshined by an amazing John Lithgow. I love John Lithgow, dude. Like that
it's like
guy,
prime Lithgow right here.
Prime Lithgow, Lord Farquaad himself, man. Like I love John Lithgow in pretty much anything, man. Like I mean, that guy can make any script just like sing. Like even if it's in like a smaller part in a Nolan film like Interstellar, or like even if it's a kids movie like Shrek, right? I mean, like Shrek is a movie that I've been considering choosing for the podcast because there's just so much to talk about. But no less because of John Lithgow's actual performance. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But other than that, like it's really somewhat bare bones, and I was like, why is he choosing this for the podcast? Like there's not that much there.
No, yeah. And
I wasn't,
that's yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna end with like I wasn't surprised by it at all. And I think it's gonna be kind of like a big fish sort of situation where I kind of like watched it and I was a bit not surprised, but I didn't know how to feel about it. Here I kind of like know how to feel about it. I'm just like I'm not really loving it too much, but I want to hear your thoughts and why you chose this. And hopefully by the end of the podcast, I'm going to come out the other side, but I don't think I will.
No, I think you're wrong. I think I'll turn you.
All right.
I mean, I just watched this a shit ton growing up. This was like heavy on rotation, and this was a big deal. This was a very big movie and had the song behind it and stuff. But it's not a movie that pretends to be something that it's not. And that's one thing, is it's not a movie that like, you have movies like this that come out and like this and like The Breakfast Club, and where it's like, they want to take away our right to dance, kind of thing. And this is a very, very 80s like movie. You could not, there's not going to be any town in fucking America that doesn't allow music and dancing. That's insane. You get the shit suit out of you. Like that's freedom of expression and blah, blah, blah. So this is something where it's like, this could not possibly fly today. No way. And that's why I thought a remake was such a dog shit idea. Now, that being said, this is definitely based on a true story, and we can get to that. It's highly exaggerated, but it's definitely based on a true story. But the interesting thing about it being based on a true story, but then also this is just like an 80s permeating kind of like, you ever watch Bob's Burgers? You watch Bob's Burgers at all?
No, I've seen bits and pieces.
Damn it. Well, do you know Jimmy Jr., the guy who's like high key, not like oh, fuck it, whatever. But he is always constantly dancing in the show, and he just is like raging out at his parents and dancing and stuff. And I was like, he is such an 80s kid in that way of like, this was a thing of like, you danced your ass off, and that was a big deal, especially coming up with the music videos. If you put yourself in that time where it's like, dude, this is 84, Thriller was 2 years ago, and it's like a lot of these videos are getting like highly choreographed now, and they're getting bigger with MTV and just the the explosion of music videos and stuff, is where you see a lot of this shit start to come in. This movie is kind of just like a big music video. And that's I don't hate that though, because the performances in it, yeah, I love John Lithgow. He is, I mean, not to be like, I like him, but he isn't a titan on his own. But Diane Wiest, for like the 10 minutes she's in here, is like, I mean, she takes a huge bite out of this movie. She has such an impact. I don't know where this town is, but like one thing that is fucked up watching this is like, I don't think you see a non-white person this whole movie like that. Like there's nobody in here that's like, oh, is that guy even like half? No, these are some Anglo-Saxon motherfuckers, dude. Bunch of Germans and shit. No, there's nobody. Even for 1984, it's like, dude, that's ridiculous, man.
They shot it
there's
in
fucking
Utah,
nobody,
right? I mean, so Utah filmed in and around Payson and Payson High School. I don't know where that is, but
like Mormon country, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Right.
But it's not something. As I watch it today, I think that even if it's something where it's a hard premise to like get over, especially nowadays, it's so silly, that like a town that doesn't allow music and dancing is like, what is this, like, World War II, like Nazi occupied France, like what the fuck is this?
I didn't bump up to that. I didn't like. I honestly thought the premise was the more exciting element of it. I mean, like obviously that's what really draws you in. Yeah, because it's. I mean, if you can kind of like take it as anything. You can kind of like take it as, you know, the repressed sexuality, right? I mean, like even like that's even like mentioned in like the script at one point, like, you know, like there's something about repressed sexuality. I can't remember the actual quote, but like, you know, like you can also relate it to, there was a case, and I hate to kind of bring up the true crime element again, but like there was a case where a child went missing because they were out for Halloween and the town banned Halloween, like trick-or-treating.
Right.
And like, you know, like I dig the whole element of like, you know, we have no way forward or around this. This is written in law. The only thing we can do is by changing the hearts and minds of those lawmakers. And I really like that whole like element of it. It's just like, again, I knew that this was all it was kind of thing when I watched it. I'm just like, cool, all right.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
And the thing
I love when I start talking and you're just like, oh yeah, you're
like,
fucking done.
Okay, so you're done. Okay, now, to me, the premise is kind of goofy, and sometimes it's a little hard to get over under a microscope or like a lens of like today. It's like, dude, there's no fucking way in hell that this would ever happen. But really, it's the music is one thing, the cast and the performances are another, and then honestly, just the way that the movie is shot, I love a lot of these shots. They look so good. Like, you know, even if it's where it's like, hey, I don't like the script, I think this movie's goofy or blah blah. There's something about the way that this is shot that's kind of timeless, you know. It feels like this could be a movie that have come out in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. It doesn't, you know, there's something about that kind of stuck out to me. Even if the soundtrack is dated as fuck, you know, there's a lot of shit in this movie that kind of stuck out to me. And like the fashion isn't crazy. This is 1984, you know, it's not like these people were dressed up like flock of seagulls and shit. Like, so the movie kind of has this timeless quality. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because it's not, you know, people in like, you know, fucking tracksuits and stuff like that, you know, and it doesn't have this super 80s like kind of feel to it, even though this is like smack dab in the fucking 80s. You know, but we just watched this growing up, and, you know, I really enjoyed the music to it. You know, the movie, even, you know, John Lithgow and Kevin Bacon did something that was like actor on actor, and they kind of like interviewed each other for, I think, like Vanity Fair or something. And Kevin Bacon's like, so you and I did a movie once, John Lithgow, and John Lithgow's like, and he's like, starts with the letter F, and he's like, yes, I think I know what you're talking about. And John Lithgow's like, it's a titty bopper movie. It's a teeny movie. He's like, it's not, you know, he's like, it is what it is, and that's one thing John Lithgow says, like, this movie is not pretending to be some heady like type thing. It's just about kids and dance and the changing of the old guard to the new guard and people being afraid. He's like, but it's also at the core, it's a story about, you know, really kind of death and loss and people, you know, it's kind of got this, if I only, it feels like Jodie Foster in Contact, where she's like, oh, if I had only done this, my dad would still be alive. You know, it's if shoulda, coulda, woulda kind of thing. And like what you said, the psychology and the sociology behind the knee jerk reaction to just outright banning everything, you know, and that's what's really that is what's interesting to me. The premise is hard for me to get over it, but once I get over it, and you can kind of get into like the minutia of, you know, what this story is kind of about, that's what honestly comes out more interesting to me is John Lithgow and Kevin Bacon. You know, Kevin Bacon without a dad, John Lithgow without a son. That's kind of cool, and they're both coming from places of loss. You know, one obviously through death, and I don't think Kevin Bacon's dad is dead. You know, it's like an emotional thing. So I think that's kind of interesting. You know, it's not they become yin and yang and they get along and he thinks of him like a son and shit like that. But it does kind of, I think it's something that when both of them kind of sit down to have that conversation, you know, he's looking at it like, hey, this guy lost a son. And he's probably looking at it like, yeah, this kid doesn't have a dad, you know, and I think they're both kind of realizing like, that's interesting between the two of them, you know. Some of the stuff is comically, like Chuck, the boyfriend, it's just like a pencil twirling, like liquor baron from the 30s. And like, Jesus Christ, man. But Sarah Jessica Parker, like this movie launched a lot of people, man.
This is the first role, right?
That I don't know. I know this was, I mean, because Kevin Bacon did Friday the 13th. What was that, 80 or 81? You know, so this is only a couple of years afterwards. Mm-hmm. Chris Penn. Dude.
Yeah.
Looking like a Greek god, man.
I know, dude. What the fuck happened to him? Don't be pointing that gun at my dad.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. And like his voice, he doesn't really have that like gravelly, like, I don't know who's alive. I don't know who's caught. I don't know who's dead. I don't know who's not, you know, that kind of that Chris Penn.
You're telling me
voice.
This guy died of a massive coronary at age 40? Are you serious?
Yeah, well, apparently he's like 17 here. I was like, whoa,
wow.
Like he's very, very young, you know, and a lot of them were, but they said he was super nice on set. That they were all staying in this hotel room that was just dog shit, and he would go out and bought like a big hibachi and was just like cooking food on like the patio and shit, like as you come out of your room, and he's making food for everybody. They're like, he's just such a sweet guy, and you know. The legacy of this movie too is really interesting. Of seeing Kevin paying DJs at weddings $20 not to play Footloose, and he's like, "Please don't fucking do this to me." But more so, you know, the movie is kind of goofy now, and it is this teenage kind of like, the adults will never understand. We just want to dance. You know, this kind of like 80s. Like, if this movie was like a move to me, it would be like somebody jumping in the air with their arm up, being like, yeah, like that's kind of what it feels like. But I don't hate that because there's parts of it that like, there is some interesting stuff about, you know, loss and then, you know, of parents being gone and children dying and stuff, you know, and losing loved ones and stuff like that. So there is something interesting about that, you know, and who doesn't love the underdog story of like, you know, I mean, in a way, it's like just the underdog story of, yeah, I'm just expressing myself and somebody has a problem with that, you know, and that's always something where you know, that can pull on an audience's heartstrings really well, where it's like, this person, I just want to make art, but they won't let me. And it's like, that's what's goofy for me to get over now.
Well, here's the thing. And like the premise again, and I'm just kind of like circling back around to the premise because it's just so interesting to me. Kind of like hits close to home because like a couple of years ago here in New South Wales, the premier, who is kind of like what we call like the governor, I guess would probably be the best way to put it, threatened to shut down all music festivals in New South Wales.
Wow.
And that was following a bunch of events where there were 1 or 2 deaths from ecstasy overdose. And I remember that was a big thing at the time. I think this was 2018, 2017, obviously back when we could go to music events. But yeah, like that was a massive thing. Like, I mean, like it was just kind of like let's do a blanket ban on music events, on music festivals until we can figure out how to, you know, curb this sort of like pill overdose, you know, issue.
Right.
And that was a massive thing. Like, it was just like, well, I mean, is that really the best way to go? Like shutting down live music events?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
well, it's going scorched earth. You know, it's too little, too late, and you're
very
trying
barbaric.
you're trying to retroactively do that, and you know, it's something where it's like drastic measures, you know, and I can get that, but at the same time, that's not the way to go about it, you know.
Right.
But that's kind of my opening thought. I mean, everybody in this movie, the cast is perfect. I mean, they're all really, really good. You know, there's some really great montages. There's some really great music. But what I didn't want to go past, like kind of opening at the top, was so the guy who wrote this movie, I believe his name is Dean Pitchford. So I was just kind of reading about, Dean Pitchford. I was kind of reading about him, and I was listening to the soundtrack on Spotify. And if you're ever on Spotify, you can click and kind of read the song credits of who basically wrote the song. Dean Pitchford co-wrote or wrote every song on the album. He co-wrote Footloose. He co-wrote the I'm Holding Out for a Hero. He co-wrote everything. And I was like, oh my God. So as I was reading about this soundtrack, dude, this soundtrack, and it sounds like I'm making this up, but I'm not. The original soundtrack contained 6 Billboard, the original soundtrack contained 6 Billboard Hot 100 Top 40 hits, 3 of which reached the top 10, including 2 number 1 hits, Footloose, and Let's Hear It for the Boy, and Almost Paradise, a duet by Ann Wilson and Mike Reno that reached number 7, plus Somebody's Eyes by Carla Bonoff climbed to number 16, and many people bought the soundtrack album without even seeing the film. So it's like, I think that's honestly what pulls me in, is like, if you put different music in this.
You didn't even hit the main fucking fact, dude. When Footloose, the album, came out, it dethroned Thriller and held that position for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
The number one position. That's crazy.
Right.
Thriller.
Yeah, this was a big deal, and I think that the music is something that really helps, because I love this, the bum, 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 down, dancing in the sheets. Right. I'm like, dude, I love that shit. I love that kind of music. It's a goofy premise, and sometimes that's hard for me to kind of hurl over, but at the center of it's a really interesting story about Ren also watching Ariel start to lose a parent. And I think that's when Ren's like, I'm in the middle of this, of like, I lost my dad in the same way that she's kind of losing her dad, and I feel kind of caught in the middle of it. But some of it is like absolutely comical. The whole town is just, I mean, good God, dude. Like, we'll get to some spots where I'm like, the town is like comically against him. It's like, I feel like he'd be walking down the street, like, you walking the wrong way, boy. And they just like handcuff him and slam him into the ground, but that's the thing. There's never any real conflict where he comes up against something that stops him. He wins at the tractor pull. Like, he wins at a lot of this stuff. There's not a moment where, like, I think if you swapped out the moment where she gets beat up and you had Chuck beat the shit out of Ren, that's something different. Now you've got a moment where he's kind of like, he's got to retaliate back from that. So he gets the shit beat out of him and he loses against the council. Now it's time. Now it makes that kind of like rally at the end so much sweeter. But I mean, that's kind of my opening thoughts. I love this movie. I think you're never going to make a movie like this today. And there's really not a lot of movies that were made like this that were successful. And I think that this is definitely one of a kind. And I'm excited to jump into it, man.
Yeah. I just want to mention before we do get into it, there was one point in this movie where I was just like, God damn it. What the fuck has he got me watching? What is this, man? And I'll bring that point up when we're there, because it made me question why we have a podcast.
I have 2 words for you: The Island. I don't want to hear anything from you.
The Island is so much more entertaining than this. I'm sorry.
Fuck, dude. I will put a knife in between your ribs. Don't you fucking dare. That movie, hell no. That is insane.
So good.
Oh my God.
I'm
going to put that up in the after party. By the way, Facebook group, The After Party, if you guys want to join. I'm going to put that up in the after party. Which one of these is better? Dude, oh my God. I can't believe you just said that. I'm disowning you. You're out of the will. I had you signed on to the deed of my house.
Footloose is obviously going to win that fucking contest.
Hell yeah, it is. It's the greatest movie. Peter Quill, greatest movie ever made.
We need to talk about that just very briefly, dude. Like, his reaction when Tom Holland says it never was. Dude, the look on Chris Pratt's face is just like, did you just tell me that fucking Darth Vader was Luke's father? Like, it is hilarious, man. I love it.
That got back to Kevin Bacon, apparently, and I had to find this. But yeah, apparently that got back to him, and he was like, "Well, I mean, there was the mention in the Guardians, which I thought was pretty amazing. I didn't really know anything about it, and when I went and sat in the movie theater, and somebody just said to me, 'Hey, have you seen this yet?' And he said, 'No, I'm going to, but I haven't yet.' And they're like, 'You're gonna fucking love this, dude.' I was like, 'That's cool.' Like, he gets some shout outs and stuff, man. But dude, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I was doing some research on this movie a bit earlier this week, and I swear it's not there anymore, but it's been edited. But I went to the Wikipedia page, Footloose, 1984 film. It said Footloose is a 1984 American. This is the top line, right? You know how it's got the top line and it's got the box. Mm-hmm. It tells the story of Ren McCormick, a teenager from Chicago who moves to a small town where he attempts to overturn the ban on dancing instituted by the efforts of a local minister. Dude, It's not there anymore, but the next line literally says it was mentioned in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. That was there. That was there right at the top line, but it must have been... I should have taken a fucking screenshot of it. God damn it.
Oh, dude, that's like when that Unknown Henson guy said that racist shit about Dolly Parton. So somebody went on his his Wikipedia and it was like, Unknown Henson is a voice actor, musician, and fucking racist. And I screenshotted it before they took it down. I was like, awesome. But yeah, let's jump into this shit, man. Let's jump into what is possibly the greatest movie of all time. So
up for debate.
What I love, there's a little joke here that I did, because as we're hearing John Lithgow, and his first line is like, he is testing us, and what that'll come back whenever she's jumping from one car to the other. Her boyfriend is going, he is testing us. He's testing us.
I like that.
That's fucking funny, dude. I dig it.
I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking about, because you chose it, I'm thinking about you. I'm like, man, for a guy who hates religion so much, he picks some really religious, like really religion-driven films, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Because it's
dude.
great when it's because there's always conflict there, man.
Well, where's
Like,
this set?
why I love
Because
Spotlight.
religion is obviously, like the Bible Belt, right? So, like, where is this set? This movie? I know it's shot in Utah.
Honestly, where is Footloose? Honestly, I just kind of picked like Utah, kind of somewhere Midwestern. I don't know if they actually ever give like a straight up place, but just somewhere kind of ass backward place. I would always make the joke because I live in a very rural like community, not by choice, which is just the only place we could really buy a house, and we live in a very rural community. Like closest Walmart's like 20 minutes away. And I always joke, people are like, hey, how do you like living there? And I'm like, well, it's like the town out of Footloose, but it has a Mapco. And I was like, that's basically about it. I was like, that's kind of how it feels.
Nice.
And these opening shots are definitely, I love the footwork at the beginning, all these people dancing. Some of those make me nauseous. I'm like, dude, you're going to snap your fucking ankle. Please stop. Like, you're really, really freaking me out. Especially the one with the girl and her heels, and she's just like dipping each one over. And I'm like, oh, please stop, man. You're going to make me throw up.
Dancing in heels? No way.
Yeah. But I really haven't said anything about Kevin Bacon. I love Kevin Bacon, even in shitty movie. I love him in like Death Sentence or Hollow Man. It's like even stuff that he's even shit that are not great movies. He always kind of brings it. Super is a really good one with Rainn Wilson and
playing a full-on villain.
Page.
Yeah, James Gunn film as well. Yeah, absolutely. There's another one. Oh, a very recent movie. Based on the
Amanda Seyfried, the horror one.
No. I was going to suggest the film based on the Boston bombings. Like the Patriots
I don't know
Day.
about that.
Yeah, he plays a FBI agent, one of the lead investigators. He's really solid, man. I love him in that movie.
Okay, I've checked that out, dude. I like him. And it's a shame if all that shit with Bernie Madoff and him and his wife Kira Sedgwick lost like millions. And Kevin, he's never come out and said exactly what it was, but he was like, it was most of our savings, which is probably dozens of millions of dollars. Like shit, dude.
I want to check out a movie called Cop Car. That's the first movie directed by the guy who now directs the Spider-Man movies, John Watts.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I've never even heard of that. Yeah. Look, we can just take this whole first chunk, in a big bite where we're introduced to Ren. We see the town they live in. We're introduced to Ariel, his mom. Yeah, it's a good way to actually drop a lot of key players in that we're going to see. The couple that's at the book burning, like we see a lot of these people kind of up front and center. We see Sarah Jessica Parker and, Laurie Singer in the gang. I don't love Laurie Singer in this. I think she doesn't do a bad job, but I could see, oh God, like Daryl Hannah, I could definitely see like Daryl Hannah in this role and somebody who could really chew it up, right? I think so. And I definitely see what they were going for, but I'm like Daryl Hannah, like around Blade Runner time, like, hell yeah. I'll take that.
I believe she was considered, but I think she was in Splash at this time. She chose to go for Splash. Do you know who crazily was considered, for
Madonna?
For Ren? No, for Ren.
Oh, whoa, who?
Two people. One got further than the other. Tom Cruise was considered, which makes sense. Risky Business. I don't know what, because I think Risky Business had already happened. But someone who got very far was Rob Lowe. Apparently he auditioned like 3 times and he had like the dancing and the natural teen look. But apparently he was injured and he just couldn't take part in it, which is crazy, dude. I love Rob Lowe.
I do too. I couldn't see Rob Lowe. I mean, I could, but if somebody in an alternate universe, someone's like, dude, Kevin Bacon was almost in Footloose. Like, oh my God, that would be so good.
I don't think Rob Lowe has the kind of like hardness or the edge that kind of like Kevin Bacon brings to it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It's a little less believable Rob Lowe as a villain, but I'm sure he could pull it off. He's definitely, especially now, his acting range is crazy. But again, we're introduced to this small town. We see everybody, this crazy fucking car stunt, dude. It's like, and it's kind of the first indication that she's got a death wish.
This is fucking harrowing.
Yeah. It's a cool way to kind of kick this off, though, in the first 5 minutes. It's like, I dig it, man. It makes your palms sweat.
This is the moment where I watched it and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this movie. And it looks amazing, dude. Like it's obviously a practical stunt, and it really like you're kind of like looking at it, and I'm just like, this is how I know I'm getting old because I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing?
The ramifications, you don't know what will happen if you fall.
You don't know what will happen if you fall, and like you're spending so much time in between when you can clearly see a truck coming towards you.
Dude, yeah.
And I'm watching this, and I'm just like, the vehicular stuff in this movie is pretty solid. Like I like the vehicle stuff, minus the tractor bullshit because
dude, yeah.
In
the remake, they're driving buses. Old school buses, and
does
the
one of them
bully's
explode?
dad,
because I think I remember the bus exploding in the trailer. That's the one.
So
that's what it was.
the bully's dad owns a racetrack, and they race like in a figure eight with. It's so
it has to be
stupid.
Bigger because it's a remake, right? I mean, like, and we're in the 2000s now. Yeah, absolutely. That's the
dude. Let me ask you this. You know what this has on like Rotten Tomatoes? It's like a 55. What do you think about that?
I think it's fair.
Fuck you. Anyways, no,
I think I'd probably give it like a 60, somewhere around there. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It doesn't have the resonance that
it's okay.
Because I didn't grow up with this. No one that I knew grew up with this. It's never permeated our culture here ever. So
that's another thing. This is what's interesting about these episodes too, where it's like this was, a 36-year-old movie at this point. And it's kind of nuts to think about, like, this is a movie that wasn't out when I was born, and same thing for you, but to be so far removed from this like 80s, like, really to kind of, because I grew up in a small southern town, and there was definitely music and there was definitely dancing and stuff, but there were like to make a perfect example, my older brother, as a joke, walked around school one day holding hands with one of his friends, and they were joking, saying they were going to get married. Dude, the principal called my parents. My parents came down to the school, and he was like, "Yeah, your son has been displaying some homosexual tendencies."
Oh my God.
Oh. Dude, my dad, one of the ballsiest, coolest fucking things my dad ever did, he was like, if you ever call me down here for this stupid bullshit, and he was like, what you're infringing on, sexual preference, race, and just like laid out all this shit. He's like, you don't need to fucking call me for this ever again. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, dude, like high five my fucking dad. But it was shit like that. Like, that's the kind of town that I grew up in. So like, I could semi relate to what was going on here. It's not that bad, but there was definitely a resemblance there superficially to like the town that I grew up in. Not as bad to where they hate 1984, which is ridiculous. That's the crazy part, when they're like, Tom Sawyer is a classic. I'm like, okay, dude, calm down. But, we'll basically, we're kind of wrapping that up there. We're also introduced to her boyfriend, Chuck. She barely escapes in physically. And like, that's what cracks me up, is watching the editing is great, but it's like, there's no fucking way. That's physically impossible what she did. I'm like, why didn't you just jump in the back of the truck? Like, that'd probably be easier.
Her legs.
She would have to fold herself. Yeah. She would have to fold herself like a piece of cheese to like get into that bitch, dude. Like, but it's, I like it as a character moment, though. It's definitely got some kind of meat on it there, where it's like, yeah, she got a fucking death wish.
Well, it also makes complete sense. I mean, given how strict her father is, that like you hear about, and I'm gonna go fucking wild here, but like you hear about Catholic schoolgirls and like how they're fucking wild. Like,
that repression, man.
Dude, we grew up. I mean, I went to a Catholic school, and I'm not saying that all my fucking all the girls I went to school with were sluts. That's not true. But I'm just saying, like, you hear these stories about like repressed women and men who grew up not being told not to do something, and they just want to do it more. Like, they want to do it more because it's wrong, and they've never experienced it, and it ends up, eventually backfiring on the parent.
Right. Well, instead of having mature and, logical conversations where you're like, hey, this thing is probably going to happen. You might come across this. Like, let's have a conversation about it. But no, it's just like cut everything off, and that's what the kind of thing, again, that knee jerk reaction to just turn the valve off, just stop whatever is happening. So, we get a little bit of backstory. Ren's got to, move from the big city. I love the cousin who's like, I think Ren's a total fox. And the dad, see, this is what I'm talking about. That's what happens with the television and listening to the rock music. And it's like, dude, all she said was her cousin's a fox. She's like 5. Calm down, dude. But we get this. I mean, I love the scene of them at the kind of like the drive-in, the dancing in the wow, bum, 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 bow now. And there's just something I dig about that. Just this kind of like 80s vibe of like everybody dancing to the music and stuff. And there's just something like a movie like this that I really enjoy as well as Dirty Dancing. I like Dirty Dancing. It's just something else I grew up with too.
For the longest time, I got these two movies mixed up for the longest time.
Oh, really? There you go. So I'm not crazy. So, again, we have the scene, John Lithgow showing up, and he's not even mad. He's not screaming. He doesn't just walk away. In fact, he does something nice and just walks away disappointed. And that is the worst thing you could do, man. He's so gutted. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, like him turning the music off, right? And he's just like looking around and just sucks all the air out of the place. It's just like shit. Because correct me if I'm wrong. Do we know that dancing is outlawed at this point? I don't think we do, right? So
the only thing she says is like, I smuggled some tapes when she starts playing music, and it's like, what?
So if you go into this movie without knowing that premise and you see this moment for the first time, and you're just like, what is happening here? What is going on? Why is everyone reacting like this? Why is John Lithgow acting this way? But I mean, you can kind of gather this from the sermon, right? You can gather this.
Oh yeah.
You can kind of take that away. But I thought this was great, man. This is, your mother didn't think you had any money with you, and then I love.
You might as well light a cigarette, take a drag, and just put it out in her chest and just be like.
He's so good, man. Just the way he walks away and he's questioning, the look on his face is just disappointment, and he's thinking as he walks away, he's just thinking about it, and it's just man, John Lithgow is a fucking all-timer. I love him so much.
Dude, yeah, he's such a boss.
And not to mention Lithgow. That voice, right? That voice that he has, down to the last slime-covered toadstool. It's just
There's something funny. Did you ever watch Third Rock from the Sun? Have you ever seen that show at all? Okay.
I've heard about it. That's pretty. Joseph Gordon-Levitt too, right?
Yes. See, that's who Joseph Gordon-Levitt was to me growing up, and French Stewart and some of these other people. But there's a guy that named Leon who's in John Lithgow's class all the time, and he always treats Leon like shit. And it's John Lithgow's actual son. I can't remember what. I think it's Ian Lithgow or something. So there's a part in this movie where Ren and Lithgow, Bacon and Lithgow are talking, and Lithgow has a picture of him and his son, and it's actually John Lithgow and his son. I was like, oh, that's fucking cool. It's nice he kind of slips them in random places. But after Dad kind of busts everybody in on the dancing party, we're kind of picking up with Ren's first day of school. We see he's kind of having a rough time. Why don't you comb your fucking hair? It's Jesus Christ, dude. Calm down. What does it matter? But out of all of this, we're introduced to Chris Penn, dude. He is such a scene stealer without even trying. You're always kind of what's Willard gonna do? He's kind of goofy and he means well, but he's just kind of, not, I don't want to say it can't get right, but he's violent, they have to tell him not to fight people and shit, and I know guys like this. I went to school with guys like this, and I was not friends with guys like this, but this was a very believable type character. But I love their meat. And he was like, yeah, they sell men's clothes where you get that. And he gives shit and he gets shit right back, and it starts a friendship. I've had so many friendships start this way. It was totally believable to me, man. And he lights up a room, dude. His smile, he's great. He's so fantastic in this. And his Southern draw is perfect. That's what I love. Is you always see these movies where people have these real, but his is these kids went dancing, they got killed, and it's real subtle. And that's what I love, is that as someone who's from the South, movies really fuck up. Danny DeVito and Big Fish, forget it, kid, she's out of your league. I'm okay, bad. Calm down, dude. It's bad. But I love Chris Penn's here, especially knowing what his voice will become. It was really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, I really dig Chris Penn in this, man. I think, like you said, it feels very natural. This entire scene here when they kind of have lunch together, it seems very like you said, natural. Like I feel like I know this
Organic,
relationship.
yeah.
I feel like I know this kind of like, you know, tit for tat. Like, you know, I give something to you, I'm gonna expect to give it right back. Like, you know, it's
Right.
yeah, I know it.
Like
100%.
two for flinching.
100%. Two for flinching.
Dude, him telling this story is so fucking funny. This cracks me up. Well, I used to do this to people too, where you're like, man, this guy, you know, had a bag in the line, and I tackled him and I pulled his bag out, and you know what was in it? It's like, what? Same bullshit I'm feeding you. It's like, I love the dude. We used to hit people with these all the time. Chris Penn, they look at him, how? Like, dude, he's so fucking funny, man. I love him in this. He's just, you know, the lovable goofball, you know, and that's kind of what I was. And I was kind of the lovable, like, goofball kind of guy in high school. I was always this goofy big dude. And I was like, I relate to that. Like, I definitely relate to that.
But they keep adding to Chris Penn's character in like the best ways that you just don't expect it. Like when he's just like, I don't really know how to dance, and he's like kind of like really shy about it. Like I'm just like, yeah man, like that's,
it's a nice flaw.
Yeah, 100%. Like he's not perfect.
Yeah. So we're introducing more of the gang. You know, this guy, I don't even know what the friend's name is. He looks like Superman. This guy is Superman. Like the guy who's like, oh yeah, Danson's been outlawed for about 6 years. I don't know what the fuck his name is, but he's like one of the only other dudes sitting there, you know, and we're hanging out with SJP, and they're, you know, having lunch with him. Like, yeah, dance has been outlawed for about 6 years. It started when a bunch of kids got killed on their, you know, basically a bunch of kids got killed in an accident. And what's interesting too is not knowing that it's Ariel's brother right here. You know, that it's the kids that got killed in the car wreck is an amazing twist towards the middle of them. I guess not a twist. It's not huge, but there's just something about that it's not enough that the Reverend is the spiritual leader of the community. It's the fact that he could not. How am I supposed to lead other families when I can't even control and lead my own? And I think that that's where you get a lot of this way, you know, they're trying way too hard to control stuff. Yeah. And by doing this at the same time, it's like, if you had actually just kind of not been so controlling, your kids are not going to want to stay here. They're going to move. They're going to go to different towns and stuff. And this town is going to die if you don't have some shit going on for it. Like I grew up in a church, and that church was a very old church, and they didn't really have a lot of young people because it was Church of Christ. There's no music. There's not a lot of youth stuff. We didn't go to we didn't go bowling and do like youthful kind of stuff. It was always just singing and shut the fuck up and, you know, go to bed kind of thing. And that church is kind of slowly like dying out because there's no real young people that go to it. And it sucks because I have a lot of like fond memories of that place. But because it's Church of Christ, because it's so far behind the time, there's not even a piano in there. There's nothing. It's all just singing. So yeah, it's just kind of like without that youth, the shit is just going to dry out, you know? And that's what I kind of felt about this town was like, in 50 years, this is going to be a dead place because no one's going to move here. Where it's like, oh, I can't play music after like 8:30. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, I'm moving away, you know? Yeah, but you know, I like this kind of back and forth between them as they're getting pulled over. You know, he's like, oh, the police, you seen him? Yeah, behind you. I was like, that's good, dude.
It was good.
I like that.
I like the timing of that was fantastic.
I thought, yeah, I laughed my ass off. You know, he gets the ticket for music too loud. It's insane to watch this where he takes the tape and he smacks him in the chin with it. And he's like, this way I don't have to take you in, boy. It's like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, you would own that police department at this point. You're doing that to a fucking minor? Like, are you kidding me, dude? They write him a $25 ticket. This guy, his uncle, dude, grabs both ankles and just lets them ram it in. Anytime anything happens, dude, this guy is the definition of a bitch. Anything that they do, he's like, it's the rock music, it's the black people, and it's, you know, I hate him.
He looks. Who does he look like? You've never seen
BTK Killer, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. He looks like. You're never gonna get this reference. He looks like the guy from Charlie's Angels when they dress up as men to infiltrate. Kind of like with a mainframe or whatever, like I can't remember, but it's just they dress up,
dude. You pull a muscle, deep in, you know, you pull a muscle grabbing for that reference, dude. That's a deep pull.
I don't know why.
That's like 3-level Inception deep pull.
I don't know why I went straight for Charlie's Angels, but that's what he looks like, and I'm just like, That is
we got
the
so
most
deep. I feel like I just pulled a Paracel out of a safe and my dad's dying.
Dude, this might be the most spineless looking man I've ever seen in my life. Like he just looks,
dude.
He looks like just a puddle of jelly. like that's honestly what he looks like.
He is a spineless, like coagulated mess.
Yeah.
And there's just something about him that's just like you would walk up and just
he's Play-Doh. Literally Play-Doh.
Yes, exactly. You could walk up to him in a restaurant, like, give me your fucking plate of food, and be like, oh, this is what the rock music and the movies, and the television.
Like, take the deed to my house too, please.
Right. Here's my wife, please. Yeah, I fucking hate his uncle. He's ridiculous. A nice scene between, Lithgow and Laurie Singer where she kind of questions his taste in music and stuff. I like that. I thought that was really cool. Her kind of putting that back into his court. And it's a great scene because later on when she says, the minute I step out the store, that's all you give a fuck about. But when I'm here, you don't do it. And this is kind of a cool scene where he pays her basically no mind when she's there. But when she steps out that door, where are you? Where you been? When you coming back? Mm-hmm. Who are you with? It's like, dude. And I kind of get that. Like, I not that my childhood and my parents were like that. My parents, I was the youngest of four. They were just like, don't go to jail. Bye. Have fun. And that would basically be about it. Like getting to stay the night with friends on school nights and stuff and riding with them to school in the morning. Like my parents were very... You're cool. You're not in it. Worst you're going to do is probably sprain your thumbs playing Halo. Calm down. Like this kid's not going to get in any trouble. Yeah. I was the youngest of four. I was my parent, I was a chill kid. I never got into trouble.
My brother and I, our parents were pretty protective. And I think it's because they were immigrants. They are immigrants rather.
Right.
So we were kind of like first generation, sort of like Australian. So it's kind of like this little bit of like a mentality of like, this is a strange new place. And this is our first, these are our kids. And, and especially like when we were growing up, stranger danger became a bit more of a thing than it did in the 80s, right? I mean, like this is not, this is like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, I mean, like, immigrant parents coming over to a different place and,
sure.
And it's
cautious. Yeah, for sure.
Cautious, yeah. And like, we kind of like my brother and I did have to bear the brunt of that. And, obviously they're not like that anymore, but like,
sure.
Definitely growing up, it was a thing. Like, we couldn't really have sleepovers. It was kind of like a thing. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like a thing. Absolutely. Like if we went riding bikes, we had to be back by dark. I mean, that's a thing.
Oh, well, yeah, that I definitely get that. But no, my mom, this is how country we were. There was a little road that was kind of near our house. It was only about a mile, maybe even less than that long. And it wasn't very far away. So my mom had this huge bell with a rope on it. And she would just pull the ding, da ding, da ding, da ding. And that's when we knew to come home. And we would ride our bikes. Because we were like we were less than like a mile away. We were just hanging out in creeks and like building dams and stuff like that. But
building dams?
Yeah, building little rock dams, like they do in Stephen King's It, just like putting rocks up and kind of diverting water and doing stuff. It's a small creek. It's not anything crazy,
We were we were jumping our
we're not out there with hard hats on and like blueprints and shit. That's what you're thinking.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know what you're talking about, but it's like building dams. Okay. Cause like we were just like out like jumping little hills with our bikes. Like, like we went.
Oh, yeah. That like we'd skipping rocks and catching crawdads and stuff. Like we always did that kind of stuff. But anyways, back to Footloose, away from Colin's childhood. We kind of see the first inclination of Ren and Chuck kind of having this, rivalry with him calling him a pansy. We skip a little bit ahead. He's got this job, gets him. The gymnastics thing, I guess they're just doing this to set up the fact that they try to make you believe this is really Kevin Bacon later. I don't know. But yeah, there's definitely like Kevin Bacon is embarrassed when people play this at weddings. He's like, that's not me. I'm not dancing. He's like 5 different people kind of played me. And he's like, so there's like gymnasts and professional dancers and stuff. He's like, so I just, it's kind of weird that there's just like gymnastics in the middle of this gym. Like, what the fuck is going on? Where's the team? Are you guys just hanging out? Like, is it like a Saturday at like noon? Like, what the fuck are you guys doing up at this school? But I it's just them kind of talking about her and bullshit or whatever. They say she's a hellraiser. She's a preacher's daughter. She's been kissed a lot, blah, blah, blah. Nice scene between I love the one between Ariel and Chuck when he's like, you're as small town as they come. Basically, why would you want to go anywhere else? And I love her silence. And she just gets up and leaves. It's like, yes, I fucking love that. Cause she's like, I'm not staying here, man. Like, I don't know. I hate to break it to you, but I'm not going to fucking be here, the rest of my life. Chuck probably gets some chick pregnant, works at the local grocery store as I'm, working in the meat department or something.
No, dude, this guy is basically a Roy from The Office. Like, he gets engaged to a girl for 5 years, works in a basement. It probably beats her, right? I mean, like, that's a thing.
Yeah. This guy, he polishes off like a case of beer every 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
What took you so long?
Yeah, he's got a real bad comb over, and basically he looks like the spineless jellyfish dad, but just with like a gut,
Took you 18 minutes to get home. Usually takes you 12.
Where's the Arby's? He eats Arby's. I like Arby's. I'm not even going to talk shit.
When's dinner?
Where's my TV guide?
No, it just sounded like Christian Bale's Batman.
Yeah. Just overweight. And where's the TV guide?
Where's the TV guide?
I want to watch Young and the Restless.
When do my stories come on? Everybody Loves Raymond's a good one.
Get your ass to bed. I'll be there soon.
He hops on like the little, like motorized chair that has to go up the rail to get him up the stairs. But anyways, back to away from Colin's fantasies.
Like, it's time to play a little. My knees hurt when I go up the stairs.
You know what? I think it's time. We get a little crazy up in this movie because it's time to play some chicken.
Oh my god, dude!
What the fuck?
This is the scene. This is the scene where I questioned. I actually said to myself, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, honestly, dude, I had
it's indefensible.
Thank you for admitting that, because I was like, I cannot wait to see you defend this. I cannot wait.
No, it's bad. It's bad. The only thing that gets me through it is I'm holding out for a hero to the end of
the... I do like that. I do like that. Yeah.
Amazing. Dude, I love that fucking... And again, that's Dean Pitchford. The fucking guy who wrote this movie basically co-wrote all of these songs. That's insane. When does that ever happen? Somebody who's a screenwriter contributing to 10 songs on the album, including the title song, and 2 of them are #1 hits. That's fucking crazy. And the thing is, everybody looks at Footloose and, holding out for a hero, and they think Kenny Loggins, I think Bonnie Taylor. But nobody's like, oh yeah, how many people know that the guy who wrote Footloose actually co-wrote every song on that album? Probably not a lot of people. That's kind of crazy, cool, man. Yeah. That the music is so good that it can pull you out of Tractor Chicken, Like it's because there's some parts where it's like, okay, they look like they're going kind of quick, but then when you look far
wide and it's like,
yes,
2 snails going at it, and I'm just like, are they gonna?
Dude, it is. And don't get me wrong. Again, I grew up around a lot of this stuff. This stuff can get kind of quick.
I fucking knew
but
it.
There is.
I was like, dude, I'm watching this scene and I'm like, I know Colin's seen something like this in real life. He's probably beat his meat to it as a spectator. Like, I'm just like, I know.
No, absolutely. I wouldn't be caught dead driving one because I can't drive big vehicles. That shit spooks me. But yeah, I have definitely. Oh my god! Like my neighbor growing up, our neighbor next door had several of these, just like big, like construction type vehicles and shit. So that wasn't big concrete trucks and stuff. It wasn't anything surprising. You see these all the time where I'm from. But of course, Ren wins the day at all of about 12 miles per hour. It's fucking so funny, man. And it's so strange. Like, as he's trying to get up, his shoelace gets stuck. And I'm like, is that really, like, you're scared of going 10 miles an hour? Like, I've sneezed. I've shit faster than these tractors are going. And like, that's the craziest thing to watch them.
Yeah, like, I recorded a fucking radar gun.
Yeah.
Like, test my shit, leave my asshole, and touch the water faster than these tractors.
It's like that Chappelle show when they slow down him taking a shit and he just like explodes off the toilet.
My God,
like he flies across the room.
This reminds me of Family Guy, the episode called, I think it's I think it's called German Guy. I can't remember, but it's Herbert, the pedophile, and he's got like this like Chris meets this other old guy in the store, and he's a Nazi. Comes out, he's a Nazi, and Herbert fought this guy in the war, and Herbert and this Nazi have a full-on like fist fight, but they're like dude, they're like so weak, and it's going. Honestly, the scene is like, I'm not even kidding. In a 20-minute episode, the scene is like 7 minutes long, and the music is just like pumping. It's like an action scene.
Yes, like, I know exactly. Dude. And they both stop for a minute and they're like,
to take the tablets. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
It's so fucking funny.
Yeah, it's literally what it reminded me of.
Kind of just like skipping over some of the stupid shit. You know, she gives him the down low on Ren. We get this weird scene with him flushing the joint down the toilet. It's like, dude, I get that this whole town is against you. I think I've seen that enough. I don't really know if I need this scene of him throwing away the joint and flushing it. And then right after that, it's just his uncle being like, apparently there was some problem at the school with some drugs. And like, this guy is only a couple of chromosomes away from Mr. Garrison from South Park. Like, drugs are bad, Ren. You should just go out in the field and dance until you feel like your heart's been content. Yeah. It's so comically.
I just want to know how this guy gets up in the morning because he has no spine. How does he dress himself? Like, how
those gooey legs fit in those pants? What are you doing in there?
What supports his back and his neck and his head? Because, dude, man, this guy's the worst.
Here's my thing. At what point, say that this is my brother and I'm living in my brother's house with my son. And I'm recently divorced and I need a place to stay. At some point, I'd be like, dude, you are kind of stepping over boundary here. This is not your kid.
Right.
Like, he might live here and, but he has a part-time job. I have a job. This is a temporary thing. You do not talk to my son like that. Like, especially.
Oh, you want him to take the Dursley approach where they just kind of like ignore them? ignores him.
Well, something where it's like, that's just not the way we operated in my family. We're like, I would not come down on like my brother's unless they're doing some crazy shit. I'm not going to sit there and be like, what, are you doing drugs in school?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because you get the feeling that Ren's mom and the wife are, sisters, and this guy's just kind of like an outsider. It's like, dude, you're kind of stepping over some boundaries here, man. But I thank God every day for the fact that he, questions him about the drugs, because it also leads us to the infamous, dude, how many fucking times has this scene been parodied? Of him dancing in the abandoned warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
You can never. It's so goofy, man. But I think the best one. Have you ever seen Hot Rod?
Oh, with Andy Samberg? I've seen most of it. I don't think I've finished it. I know.
Dude, he does this out in the woods and eventually starts falling down the hill, and every fall gets comically larger to where he's got to be on wires. Somebody went online and they took all the music out of this and they just added in like sound effects of him.
Awesome. I love that shit, dude.
And like, so when he's dancing, he's running through, when he stops and he kind of jumps and puts that arm in the air, somebody added it and he goes, yeah. He just goes back. Like, have you ever seen the David Bowie, Mick Jagger dancing in the streets? Like, where it's them like, and it's just them making like noises. It's just like that. But like when he grabs the wire and he swings, it's like, oh my God.
I love those videos. Dude, someone did one where the end of A New Hope, and it's Leia giving the medals out to Chewie. And you just hear like coughing in the background, like, like,
right.
Oh, so
that's
good.
What's so good about, dude, when he grabs, when he's on top of that beam, he grabs that loose wire. What I love, he swings on that thing. I just hit my mic. He swings on that thing like he's, like he's Tarzan, but like, dude, what if that's like a live electric? He's like, you can never, and just fucking starts foaming at the mouth. Like, you don't know what the hell that thing is, man. Like, this place could be shut down. Like, I'd love if like Lori Singer showed up. Dude, yeah. Well, I want Lori Singer to show up. She's like, what are you doing here? This place has been closed down for asbestos. He's like, oh, fuck. But dude, I mean, this movie is worth it for this scene alone. And it's so goofy and it's so over the top. But, that's just it's kind of the thing of like, I get what they're going for. Like, you're frustrated, you're a teen, there's only so much you can do. You know, you're almost an adult, but you're not an adult yet, and you're still being treated like a kid. So you just gotta fucking dance it out. Like, I've just never felt that way where I was so mad I had to dance. Like, that's
I work
just not,
out. I mean, I go running. So I get the
I punch things.
Yeah, right. But like, here's the thing. Like, the reason, like, we're saying these things because we can relate. I get that you need to do some kind of physical activity to kind of like express your emotions. I understand because, like, honestly, like, we were just talking off air about, like, you know, if I'm feeling like not down, but like mentally just kind of like slow or sluggish, I go and ride my bike and go do some physical activities because, like, afterwards I feel it's endorphins, right? I mean, like, isn't like chemically proven like that, like doing like physical activity can help
boost
mood.
like depression and
absolutely.
shit. Yeah. So yeah, Lori, you know, again, Lori Singer shows up. I don't know. Ariel is just not, I just look at her. I'm like, oh, it's Lori
it's
Singer.
a Little Mermaid. Cool.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, this is where she shows up. She takes him to like the yearbook or the scrapbook, whatever they call it. I do love this set though. I love the way that this is really, really fucking cool. I really, really, really dig this. We got another train dodge. Obviously, again, she's got, you know, a fucking, yeah, I don't know, you know, but the thing that I do like though is that she obviously has some kind of fucking problems, and she's looking at Ren, you know, and she's like, yeah, you know, but Ren's just like, I'm good, dude. Like, you need to maybe figure out what's going on there first before we start like slippity dippity.
Dude,
you know,
this is like, Ren needs to conduct a full assessment before diving into that, because this is
the crazy hot scale,
right,
you know,
right.
Like,
literally, it's a spectrum, but like, I don't understand this because, like, she raises her hand and she screams as if she's actually afraid, and I don't, like, what is she trying to achieve?
She puts her arm up like she's Stranger Things in 11. Like, the train's gonna stop, you know, and it's like, bitch, you're not Magneto. Like, who the fuck do you think you are?
So, yeah, like, I mean, like, obviously she's trying to do this like to get a rush, but I don't it's the screaming for me, and it's the acting scared. Like, that is baffling to me.
The thing I like is that it's all vehicular stuff. The two death wish things she has, and her brother dies in a car wreck. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I kind of like that. Anytime you're around this, it's almost like this compulsion to, like, I heard a really interesting quote the other day. It was like, you know, some people are afraid of heights, and it's not the fact that you think you'll fall, but some people have the impulse to jump. And I was like, shit, that's really interesting. You know, and like, sometimes you do have the impulse just to be like, huh, you know, and I mean, God knows I'm fucking terrified of heights and never do that. But I do like the way it's shot, where they shoot her like 2 or 3 times, and every time she's screaming, you know, and it kind of restarts it. It's cool imagery, but I just don't think it's really necessary. You know, she comes home, she gets shit from her dad. They kick Ren off the gymnastics team. You know, but this is where he first kind of gets the idea of, hey, yeah, we're going to have a dance. You know, a dance. He starts chasing Chris Penn around with the thing. I love it, man. It's, you know, it's nice and it's kind of homey, charming. But again, the thing that gets me is the guy driving me like, hey, sorry, you got cut from the team. And it's like, dude, again, I don't need this. The guy we have good enough conflict here. We have a influential, important member of this society having an issue with your main character for religious or moral reasons or whatever. That's cool. I don't need him getting kicked off the team. I don't need him getting pulled over for shit. Like, a little bit, maybe, you know, the music thing is cool, but I don't need him with the joint and stuff. It's not, you know, I feel like this movie really could be about 20 minutes shorter, to be completely honest. It's like an hour 45, and it's like, this needs to be about 80 minutes. If you cut down on, like, you know, how many times they play Footloose in full, it's like, Jesus, you have 9 other songs.
Right.
Dude.
Yeah. The
Pick
opening
something
credits
else.
of this alone, right? Like, pretty long.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. So again, they sneak across state lines. They go to this kind of country-esque bar. And like what you were saying with Chris Penn, you know, I can't dance. And he whispers it. He's like, I can't.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
dude,
adorable, man.
It's so charming.
The look on his face. Oh, man, it's fantastic. I just like, because you can tell he wants to be included. He wants to be a part of this, right? Like, and that's the sad part. It's just like, yeah, because like, also, it's not surprising to the audience that he doesn't know how to dance in this fucking town that doesn't teach anyone how to dance. So he can't, he has no idea how to express himself. Like, it's, actually really endearing. I really appreciated this part of the movie.
Right. Well, it's like living in a town where nobody else speaks the language that you want to speak. How are you going to learn how to speak that language, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and just his sincerity in it, man, I love it. He's like a big kid. That's basically what Willard is. He's a giant kid. And just at a point, you know, how sad Sarah Jessica Parker is when they just have to go sit down over there and he's just chain smoking and drinking. Like, man, I know so many couples like that where it's like, hey, come on, let's go out. And like, nah, I just want to sit here. It's like, and you know, he wants to go out. I get that. But like, I've seen way too many real life couples where it's like, no, I'm not doing it. You know, I'm not a dancer. I like slow dancing and I don't mind like goofing off in my house. I would never dance how I goof. And that's kind of fucked up. Dancing is just dancing. You should do whatever you want. But dude, I'm white. I'm 300 pounds and it's not, and I have 2 left feet, you know, and I do a lot of the robot and shit and like 80s stuff, you know, if you have an 80s theme party and people are dancing, dude, I'm down, you know, but like, that's about as far as my shit goes.
I can dance. I just need a few drinks for the confidence. Like I can't do it. I can't do it sober. And until like I've had a few, that's when I kick in. Steph's got a great video of me on New Year's, dude.
Oh.
She showed my fucking friends the other day.
I want to see
and
this.
I'm just like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're done.
Dude, I was a big Michael Jackson fan when I was like 12. I think I got the Thriller album in like 2002 when I was 12. And I knew all the dances to Beat It, and I knew all the dance to Thriller. Like I knew that, and I used to do them all the time because I just loved the music video. And I think that that's probably why a movie like this has stuck with me, and probably not as much as you, because there was a time when like I have a lot of fond memories of watching old 80s music videos, and like 2000, 2003, you know, when a lot of people my age were listening to like 50 Cent and Eminem and shit. I was like, you know, there's this band called Flock of Seagulls, and they did not just write Iran. They have some pretty good tunes. But I was busy watching shit like Footloose and
I like Iran.
Crying myself to sleep every night. No, yeah, Iran. There's a really good one called Photograph. That one's a really, really good one. But, you know, Willard gets into a fight. I love the guy. He's like, hey, I came with that girl. You're not leaving with her.
He gets into a fight with Burt fucking Reynolds, dude. That is...
Oh, dude.
Dude, he is a clear-cut, younger version of Burt Reynolds. I'm just like you fucking kidding me right now?
This is what kills me is, you know, he's a big dude. He's got a little bit of a gut on him, you know, something crazy. And it's like, hey, partner, when's the last time you saw your dick? And I was like, Chris Penn, ask yourself that in about 10 years. It's like, that's, you know, it's like this guy's total. What did this guy do? He's dancing with this girl. Yeah. You know, she doesn't want to dance with Willard. Yeah. It's like, fuck off, man. Like, she's a pretty young girl out there to dance. Yeah. You know?
You know, this is this dance floor right here. This is the courting area. Right, you don't step in here and assume that you'll win someone, right? Yeah,
right. I'd love if Chris Penn's like, "Hey, we got school tomorrow," and he's like, "Bye, bitch." Like Burt Reynolds is like, see you later." Dude, his blood all over his face and shit is actually really good. Yeah. Like, damn, that fucking looks bad. You know, him falling off the car on the way home, they kind of get the down low on exactly that it was Ariel's brother who was killed, you know, when these kids were drunk. I love her whole thing, you know, and he decided he was going to save this pissant little town and put his daughter on top like a cherry.
Now she says,
I like that.
She says, you've never heard of the infamous Crosby Bridge accident. I thought for a second she said Cosby Bridge accident, and I'm just like, that's a different kind of accident. That's a different.
See, there were children playing in the car, and blah blah blah.
Here, smell this.
Drinking alcohol,
chloroform,
and the game called tag.
Oh shit! And we play it naked.
Yeah, that's the way we play. Me and my children and my wife. That's how we play it in the house. That is a total ripoff of Eddie Murphy's version of Bill Cosby, and his is great. His thing of Richard Pryor, where he's like, you know, I called Richard Pryor and I was like, Richard, man, Bill Cosby gave me a bunch of shit about cussing on stage. He goes, man, he's like, man, are you putting people in the seats? He's like, yeah. He's like, man, are you making money? You making them laugh? He's like, yeah. Well, tell that motherfucker I said to have a Coke and a smile. Shut the fuck up. And like, that is one of my favorite jokes of his, dude.
I heard that on a podcast. It might have been on Rogan's podcast. I can't remember. Someone was talking about it, but I definitely remember hearing that. Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah, dude. So yeah, like I said, they get back. This is where we hear about the bridge accident. The next day when he slaps Ariel, that's fucking hard, man. Oof. That's again, we're kind of hitting a point of no return here. Where like the fingers are slipping, the grip is slipping on your children. But Diane Weiss, man, she is definitely one of my favorite actors of all time. She's in Edward Scissorhands. I think she's in The Mule. She's in Lost Boys. She's in this. She's in Birdcage. She's in a lot of my favorite movies. And she only has like 5 to 10 minutes of screen time in this, but she is such a powerhouse in what she is in. And I love her. She's kind of breaking it down. She's laying it out here. She's like, she's kind of one of the only ones that can make any sense to him. Like he feels like he's the spiritual leader of this community. And, he's not really listening to a lot of people. He's listening. I feel like he's in a lot of like pain. And the only person I think that can really get to him is somebody who's kind of experiencing that same kind of pain.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I think that, they lost their son, and his wife is definitely grieving from that as well. And I kind of like, man, maybe lose a couple of montages or cut some time out and show me a scene of her having trouble gripping with her son's death. I'm not saying I don't wallow in her misery, but if the town is bad enough that, there's no dancing, there's no music, and he's hurting this bad, I would like to see her be like, you're not the only one who lost a son. And if we keep this up, we're going to lose our daughter. It's like, but that's kind of what she's saying here. She said, you can lift a congregation so high, they have to look down to see heaven.
Such amazing line. Dude, this scene here, when they're in the church and they're kind of like having this heart to heart. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, man. She knocks it out of the park. She's like, I've been quiet, I've been unobtrusive, and like, oh man, like she just really sells it. And you can tell it hits him hard, right? Like she walks away and he's just left with his own thoughts. And it's brilliant. It's beautiful. I actually really do love the scene. Yeah, for sure.
Love it, man. This is a standout where, you can lift a congregation up, but it's the one-on-one where you need a little work.
And I think,
that's
good. I think this is what I was looking for a bit more from the film. And, you kind of pointed it out. It's just like, dude, lose some of the montages and give me more of this, because this actually did surprise me. Like, I was like, watching this movie and, knowing how it ends up, like knowing it's a movie that it's about, outlaw dancing, and none of that really surprised me. But this stuff right here, this coming to grips about the death of your child, and being unable to move past that is heavy. And I was not expecting heavy from this movie. Yeah. So a bit more of that would have been great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're right on the money. So yeah, again, after this really, really great scene, we kind of get them trying to get the ball off the ground. He realizes he's got to go before the city council. If I got to go before that council, you're going to have to learn how to dance. It's lovable. I like it though, just because Chris Penn is so charming. This is not, if I had to cut a montage, this would not be it. This would not be it,
but I did roll my eyes. I'm just like, another montage? Like, it's just kind of like,
it's the 80s.
I know. I did like it. It's just the frequency of the montages is rough. But like, here's the thing.
Right.
Goodfellas is almost all montages. There are so many montages in Goodfellas and Casino, but there's something about those montages that like don't really like halt the story or anything like that. This is kind of like, let's take 2 to 3 minutes, and all we're telling you is that Chris Penn is now good at dancing. That's all we're telling you.
Right.
Like, it's just like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
So yeah, we get him, training him to let's hear it for the boys. God, he's in great shape, man. When he's doing like the push-ups on the ground, totally. It's like, oh my God, man. Like this makes me want to get off my ass and go to the gym.
This guy died of a fucking heart attack at 40. Think about that. 40.
Yeah.
Like I have 13 years left to live. What?
God knows how much shit, I think he was on a bunch of drugs at the time too. I think they found a bunch of shit in his system. But you know what? It sucks he died, but he fucking partied, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
But he was a beefy dude, right? I mean, like if you look at him in not just Reservoir Dogs, but even like Rush Hour, which was early 2000s.
Like Corky Romano. Yeah. He's very big dude. I'd love this scene between the Reverend and this like pissant guy that's just been kind of spearheading all of like the conservatism in the community. And he's like, when we fired that young English teacher, and that's what's interesting, they're talking about the same English teacher that recommended 1984 at the beginning of the movie. So they fired this teacher, and he's like, I didn't think that it deemed firing. We didn't get any support from you. He's like, I don't think we had any grounds for his dismissal. He's like, a lot of people around here start to worry. He goes, a lot of folks worry just a little too much. Doesn't take time for corruption to take root, Reverend. About how long is that, Roger? As long as it takes compassion to die.
Yeah.
God damn it, dude.
I do like that. Because, like, here's the thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. We'll be right back. No, I'm kidding. But no, I really like this because, and here's the thing we haven't talked about. Just something that took me by surprise. One of the few things that took me by surprise. I thought that this Reverend character was an immovable object, right? I mean, like, if Ren is an unstoppable force, then he's the immovable object. But he isn't. Like, he's a human being, and like, him spouting this line about, compassion dying, that is so three-dimensional. Like, he's not written like this out and out kind of like villain that's here to stop dancing. Like, he's able to see the faults and the cracks and he's kind of like, he's not at that level of Trumpian conservative that these guys are, right? Like, he's kind of like,
but you're seeing what you're affecting, what your followers are doing.
Exactly. And it's not going to end up good. It's not going to end up like well. And he sees that, right? I mean, like later at the book burning, which is when he, he does the complete 180, right? And like they're actually carrying out the activities that the Nazis were doing. It's just, it's really well done, and it's a really well written character, and I really appreciated it.
Right. Yeah. And it does add a degree of, a third dimension to him that's really, really good, that he's not, like you said, this Darth Vader totalitarian, like dictator. That's a great point. Ariel and Chuck break up. It's a brutal scene. Him hitting her in the wrist, getting the pipe away from her, and just beating the shit out of her. Again, I think this would be actually kind of cool if it were Ren. Like, basically, he hasn't really had a moment where he's had a real setback, except for the town is basically against him the whole time. It's just a steady stream. There's not like, it's almost like a steady stream of conflict where there's not really like a spike, maybe except for where they throw the brick through his window. But even that's not really okay. Right. There's not really any crazy consequences from it. Yeah, dude, this is rough to watch, him fucking roughing her up and stuff. I mean, technically she threw the first punch. I'm not pointing finger. No, I'm just kidding. I'm fucking kidding. Jesus Christ.
Hold on to your emails.
Yeah, dude, yeah. But she meets him up. She gives him the music box. And I like where she's like, thanks for doing this. Thanks for taking on my father. And Kevin Bacon's like, hey, this is not some kind of like, fuck you to your dad. I don't have a problem with your dad. This is about the bigger picture here. And I think that's what's interesting is we've had that moment just now with John Lithgow where he's like, this is not about this boy. And this is not about, this is not about taking away everything that is going to produce a bad thought. He's like, this is about me doing something personal for this whole community. And they're both kind of coming from that area of like doing what they think is best for their community. And I do like that, but they just think that there's different ways of going about it. And I think that's pretty interesting. Both of them are kind of trying to do the same thing, but, they think they're so far away on the spectrum when they're really not. They really kind of want the same thing in a way. They just want people to have fun and be themselves and just enjoy their community. And I really dig that. They share a kiss. It's a nice romantic moment. Kind of weird. She got a black eye. There's probably like blood all in her mouth. I'm like, nah, this is a strange time.
He eats pieces of shit for
maybe
breakfast.
Not now.
It's fine.
He's like kisses her and like spits a rock out. And he's like, oh,
that was
sorry.
That was a tooth. Cool.
Yeah. Great scene between Lithgow and Weiss. She's like, I never really stopped believing in you. That's really great. They're trying to get kids ready for the dance. She gives them that Bible with all the art, with all the verses. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. I like, you can't be a father to everybody. Like that is a good line. Yeah. That's a fantastic line.
Yeah, their whole interaction. I could watch this for 45 more minutes. They just eat two of the greatest actors of the 20 and 21st century sitting there together, just fucking annihilating what they're given. I love that he's like, I just know that when children dance, they become sexually irresponsible.
That's the line.
And she's laughing. Yeah, she's like, when did you become, this old man with like sand for testicles? Like, who are you? Who's this shriveled up old man? Again, they throw she gives him the Bible verse with the weaponized verses in it. They throw the brick through his window. This is what cracks me up is they throw the brick. Ren's mom and his aunt come rushing in. They're checking on the kids. The fucking dad immediately picks up the brick. Burn in hell. This says burn in hell. I'm like, dude, your daughter could be laying there with a piece of glass in her forehead. And you're like, look at this brick. Hey, everybody, I got this brick.
But even like before, like he doesn't even go check. He's just like, now do you see? You don't wave your flags around here without people taking shots. Like, it's just like, dude, you took the time to do a whole I told you so before checking on your daughters.
Yes.
Like, okay.
What the fuck, man? Like, and this guy is basically a couple of hair strands away. I'd say let the rest of him go bald, gain 40 pounds. He's Dr. Phil. He's just about there. Like, do you see what happens when you throw a brick through a window? Like, it's fucking crazy. And the fact that he's like, oh, this is your fault. Fuck you. This is your fault. Like, because I want to have a school dance? You think this is justified? Like, it's fucking terrifying how stupid people can be to that level. But this is a great scene with Ren where, he his mom asks him, which I don't like how little his mom is basically like a non-character. She has maybe 10 lines of dialogue. She's hardly in it at all. But she's like, I watch you, I see, what's going on. He's like, you're not going to understand this. I thought when Dad left, it was because of me. And I thought that maybe, I could, there was something I could do to make it like it was. Like, that's an interesting kind of thing. Again, that is the same thing that Lithgow is. I wanted to do something to make it like it was. Like, I would love to have my son back. I would love to be able to take this town. Let's make this town great again. Let's take this town back where there's not drugs and women and dancing and rock music and stuff. They're both kind of want things they're on similar ground, but just not exactly the same kind of ground. And he kind of blames himself for his dad leaving. I think that's a great scene with Ren. A great character development because you've never really seen him talk about his dad or anything. I think in the remake, both his parents are dead, and his uncle is really fucking cool in the remake. I'll give it that. His uncle is really fucking cool in the remake. But this is where we get the city council meeting. This is great. I love this, especially Diane Wiest. Dude, she uppercuts this room so good. She's awesome. I am unbelievably attracted to her when she's like, I believe Mr. McCormick has a right to speak. I'm like, oh, God, you are a beautiful woman. I'm in love with you, Diane Wiest. Well, just the fact she tells that fucking like Nazi to shut the fuck up and sit down. I'm like, yes, I love that. She's like, Eleanor, sit down. I'm like, God, I love you, Diane Wiest.
It's awesome. It's such a great moment, dude. Like I really appreciated the whole, because like if you are Ren in this moment, this gives you hope that what you're about to say in front of this congregation might end up, working in your favor, right? If you have the priest, the reverend's wife vouching for you and trying to let you be heard, like, this is 100% this might work. Yes, because like what the guy says earlier, he's like, you're an outsider. People aren't going to like you, so you need someone from the inside kind of rooting for you. You got to have somebody championing for you. This is a great speech, by the way. Yeah, I like it a lot. Like this. I timed more, and it's like our time to dance. Like I really appreciate it. I like it a lot. That's what I said. Fucking podcasters, eh? But yeah, like, and there was a time for this law, but not anyone else. Like, this is our time. It's our way of celebrating our life. Like, it's just, I really like the whole, this is not the way it was in the beginning anymore, right? Like, I mean, like this is like, just, I really appreciate like the whole passing of time, right? Like the passing of the torch, like, this is not what you think it is, right? We are not doing this for the reasons that you think we are, right? Like we are doing this literally just to express our feelings. And, his main piece of evidence is the evidence that they've relied on to defend it, right? I mean, like to actually throw out dancing, right? Like his one piece of evidence is the Bible, and that's what they've been using to throw away dancing. Right. Fighting fire with fire, exactly. Basically. Apparently Kevin Bacon has a horrible
anxiety, public speaking, and he took like half a Valium before he did
That's
this.
awesome, dude.
It's like,
I fucking relate.
That's hilarious.
I can fucking relate on that.
Dude, the minute that he is like in Psalm 149, you see John Lithgow's head just whoosh, like a whip, dude. He cracks when he sees that.
I was looking for it. I was looking for the reaction because, like, I was like, man, like, wait till he brings out the fucking Bible verse.
Yes. Well, and you see, I love the exchange between Lithgow and Weiss where they're kind of looking at each other and he's looking at her like, you know, like, that son of a bitch. Like, and you can kind of see that it's working on him. Of course, they outvote him. You know, they say, hey, fuck you. But he kind of, this guy, I don't know what this guy, Andy, I guess is his boss at the mill. Andy tells him like, hey, you know, you can do it outside of, you can basically do it outside of the town limits. But, you know, the whole point was to do something here in Beaumont. He's like, well, do it outside the town limits and make him understand exactly where you're coming from. I like this character of Andy. He just seems like a nice, chill kind of guy. There's just something about that I really like. So basically they decide, hey, yeah, this is where we're going to put it on, but we want to get the blessing of the Reverend. And like you said earlier, this book burning scene, holy shit. This is crazy. This is, again, where you've hit a fever pitch. You are hitting a point of no return. Like, we've kind of slowly been climbing this ladder, and now the only other way is to turn around and go down. It's only going to go down from here. Who elected you to be the savior of everybody's souls in Beaumont? Reverend, we have a perfect right to determine what our children. Roger, take these books and go home. He's like, when you've burned all these, what are you going to do then?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck,
Awesome.
I love that, man. And this is definitely when he gives him the books and he's like, Satan is not in here. Satan is in your heart. Like that. And that's something, one of my favorite bands is called Mute Meth. And they've been labeled a Christian band, which they kind of refute that. They're just, they each have like their own kind of faith.
I fucking knew it. You're a closet religious person. I fucking knew it.
Eat my ass, Zoheb. No, I'm just kidding. No, the thing that I love is they have a song called Burden, and Burden is like the devil, but the devil is not the nature that is around us, but the nature that is within us all. I love that. It's not, Satan is not in a Marilyn Manson album. Satan is in the person who listens to the album and is like, I'm going to go kill people. That's not, that's like blaming Grand Theft Auto for shit like that. It's like, no, that's not, Kill Bill does not make me actually want to kill Bills. It's not the way that works.
It's kind of like, well, not really. I mean, like, I just thought of like this parallel that someone explained the other day. They were just like, like films don't change, people change over time. Like, it's just kind of like, the way we view things.
Yeah.
And perspective and where we are in life and our trauma that we've experienced or lack of trauma and how we approach these things and what we bring to them, so yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like what you said, it's like going home to the house you grew up in and it's so much smaller. It's like the house is the same size it's always been. It's like your perspective has changed. I tell you what, I fucking hate this movie for. I docked this like out of on a scale of 1 to 10, I docked this 2 points. Almost 3 points automatically because, the book burning scene happens and it cuts to, Reverend and Ren sitting there. And he's like, hey, maybe if you can explain to me why my dad left, sometimes I could explain to you what happened to your son. Sometimes stuff just doesn't make any sense. And that's okay. But this scene, it's like they forgot this scene was supposed to go here. And this could be the way it's shot, the way it's lit, the way they're kind of framing each other. And the thing you very, very rarely in this movie have seen a shot with Ren and John Lithgow in the same frame. And now we're seeing that. And I like it. And it's low level lighting. He's in his home. They're talking about their families and loss. And that's great.
And then it ends.
But the movie just kind of, the movie just kind of goes, oh, well, okay, yeah, I guess stuff just doesn't make any sense and the world is random, and that's what's kind of disturbing about it is like you just glossed over a really important scene, man. And I get maybe we just had the speech in front of the council. Maybe we don't want to have another big wordy kind of talky talk, like dialogue-y thing.
But we're about
here.
to have another one. Like, I mean, like right after this is him in front of the congregation and, encouraging the dancing, right? But like, so it's weird that this really important scene is sandwiched in here between these two kind of like big moments. Because I was just like, I'm not even kidding, dude. I was watching this movie and I kind of like looked away for a sec, and these two were talking, and I'm like, wait, did I skip something? And I rewound it, and I was like, no fucking way. Like, like there's no, like, it just honestly cuts to Ren right there at the kitchen table, like whatever table they're in, and then he gets up and leaves, and I'm just like, what?
Whoa!
This is the conversation
and
the
like,
movie has been building up to the entire runtime, and I'm just like, why are we glossing over this?
That's what I'm like, dude, this is bullshit, and I was kind of like, that's really fucked up, because there is a really, really, really cool conversation in there, and maybe the scene goes longer and they just cut it down to its core. I don't know, but that's, Jesus, man, that fucking sucks. But I love her talking to him where he's like, Ariel, I'm running out of answers. I'm running out of excuses. I'm like, God, I love that, man. Just because you can finally see not the facade, but your infrastructure is crumbling. You can't keep this up, basically, because this is not, that it's only going to take time before this is done. Like you said, the next day at the congregation, sometimes I feel like a first time parent who makes mistakes, and he gives everybody, I want to give them their blessing for this party or this dance. I love the the way the music comes in is so
it's
good.
Celebratory.
The way it's it feels so earned right there, man.
That's the word I was going to use, earned, because it feels so. Again, we've been building up to this moment of him giving his blessing, right, that this can go ahead, and now it feels like we have no more obstacles to overcome. But
right,
like we'll get to the fist fight at the end, whatever. But like now it feels this is the big hurdle, right, preventing this from happening.
Right, exactly. And there's sometimes I look at John Lithgow, I'm like, why did you not play Elton John at some point? Like, I really would like to see you take a crack at Elton John. I know that's crazy because John Lithgow's like a foot taller than him, but I something about his look. But of course we get this great, looking into your eyes, I know I'm right.
Skip.
I love that song, dude. It's Kenny Loggins again. They're setting up for the dance. This is, really nice montage. Especially Diane Weiss again. She's like, how are you going to get there without your corsage? And I'm like, you tricky bitch. I love you, Diane. Have you seen Birdcage? Robin Williams? You tricky bitch. You pulling out that corsage.
No, I haven't seen it.
Please, man. She's great in that. Gene Hackman, Hank Azaria, Nathan Lane. Oh, so good.
Birdcage. Wait, not Robin Williams? Is he not in it?
Yeah, he's in there. Yeah. I was like, well, it's a given. He's in there, but I guess
no. I was dude. I've been watching
everybody. So.
I've been watching Modern Family. And like we talked about in another episode, Modern Family. Nathan Lane, he plays Pepper. Dude, he is so good. I love Nathan Lane in that show, man.
I do too.
So
he's a national treasure. Yeah, I love Nathan 100%. Lane. So of course he picks her up. You look very beautiful. He's such a gentleman, and this is great. Where all the kids are standing there around and nobody wants to dance. And it's like, yeah, because everybody's fucking awkward. Nobody's ever been to a dance before here. Nothing, there's no kind of reference. So this is kind of a good time. I'll make this quick about the true story of how all this happened, because there's a great quote from one of the guys who was kind of spearheading this. Now, this is from TulsaWorld.com. So this was a Oklahoma town inspired original Footloose. So this was a city in Oklahoma. Yes. Elmore City. This whole I'm not going to read this whole article. It is a very well written article, though. It is very, very good. This came out in 2011, right when the remake was about to come out. So they just kind of capitalized on that, wrote an article. Thinking back 31 years, Leonard Coffey can recall the first prom in Elmore City's history starting off slow. That part of Footloose, the 1984 film inspired by the Southern Oklahoma's town ban on dancing and the teens' fight for a prom, was no Hollywood fiction. Nobody really knew how to dance, he said. We could move around a little bit, but we were clueless as to what we were doing. He says with a laugh, I'd say Clueless would have been a better title for the movie than Footloose. I was like, that's cool. But there was a guy. Sorry.
Oh no, I think you're actually going to read it. The guy from the actual Reverend.
There's a couple of characters here. Coffey was this guy Leonard Coffey Leonard Coffey was a junior class officer, and Rex Kennedy was the junior class president who was tasked with presenting the prom request to Elmore City School Board. Put together Coffey's first name, Leonard, and Rex, and you get Ren, the unusual first name of Kevin Bacon's character in Footloose. So yeah, like you said, they have this the Reverend F.R. Johnson of the United Pentecostal Church in nearby Hennepin was quoted in People magazine as saying at the time, if you have a dance, somebody will crash it, and they will be looking for only two things, women and booze. When boys and girls hold each other, they get sexually aroused.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah, well, so in Elmore City since 1898, 82 years, they'd had a band. It's like on dancing for whatever reason. And basically because it was a school thing, they left it up to the school board instead of the city council. And it was like kind of, it's very similar, but not there. You know, there was a girl who her dad was on the school board and kind of like helped push it through and stuff. It was like the opposite of the Reverend. It was actually like a girl and her dad like kind of spearheading stuff, and it actually ended up winning. What was the vote? It ended up winning something very close.
Wasn't it? Hold on. The request to overturn
2-3.
The request to overturn the ban in order to hold the prom was met with a 2-2 decision from the school board, when the school board president, Raymond Lee, broke the tie with the words, "Let 'em dance."
Right. So Raymond Lee's daughter was one of the ones who was like helping push this through and shit. It's really, really interesting. And they go on to say, the big night arrived. I think everybody was too excited to eat. They had all this food. There were like 60 media people watching and only like 2 people on the dance floor. So that was a little awkward because we were so shy that we didn't know what to do. So basically, yeah, there were so many people there that they were like, yeah, it's kind of like, then that does kind of suck to like fight for all this stuff and have your prom and then have all these people with cameras and shit. Like, I don't want to get like photographed doing this. You know, I want to get on video doing this shit. So that's kind of like, it was a real place. And there are, there are some places like that, you know, way back in the, you know, distant years of yonder. But I thought that was really cool that basically this guy, it sounds more like Dean Pitchford is a musician who just kind of took this and barely distorted it. You know, like if you wrote the songs these good and this was basically a true story, it sounds like you just kind of took a true story and sprinkled some bullshit on it. And you're like, I'm a musician looking for a break. Ooh,
sweet Jesus.
Sorry, I guess I'm stuck in my throat. This dude. Let me see here where I'm at. Oh yeah. So the big dance. You know, obviously nobody's dancing, of course. We get this really nice scene between Lithgow and Weist where they're kind of breaking down, you know, it's basically, are we turning into like the old bastards, you know? Like, are we the ones who are, you know, kind of, I like this scene a lot because it's got this feeling of like, it has kind of a spooky feeling, like them being out there in the dark and stuff, but they just feel so like innocent, you know? There's something about the scene where they feel so raw and they feel like nothing is held back and they're not hiding anything anymore. And they're kind of facing their pain, you know, and he's like, she says, it's just the two of us again. And he just immediately hugs her. And it's like, yeah, like this is it. Like you all, it's the two of you have pretty much always had each other. And I really, really like that a lot. My brother has ruined this scene for me though, because there's a shot right when they start talking. And, you know, he kind of walks off and Diane Weiss is like, Shaw. And she looks over and he kind of steps out of the shadows into the light. And my brother and it's always stuck with me. My brother was like, dude, when he walks out of the shadows, I thought he was going to kill her. And I was like, whoa. And the look on his face is so like, I'm going to fucking kill you, you know? And I was like, whoa, talk about a turn. Like he ends up being the Trinity killer really early on.
Oh my God, dude. I don't want to go down the path of the Trinity killer being the best Dexter fucking villain of all time. But that is a huge escalation, and
yes,
yeah.
He just starts strangling her in the middle. Andy shows up, he pulls out a gun and shoots. He just shoots into the cab. He just goes crazy in the town.
I love that he's like he's so against dancing, but he's fine with murder. He's just like, it's fine.
Exactly. You can't dance if you're dead. Right. He starts choking her to death. I'll save you from your sin. So Chuck and the guys show up. Big fight breaks out. I love Chris Penn, who's just like, Rusty, what are you doing? He's like, kick their ass. He starts beating the shit out of everybody. But he's like this little bulldog. Yeah. I really dig it. Ren comes flying off with a heel kick right in that guy's face. What the fuck, dude?
Fuck is this? You just broke the guy's jaw, by the way. You have formal shoes on, sir. Like, you know how hard those things are?
Right. You've got heels on those things, man. Like, I was afraid it was going to cut to them dancing and then just cut to back outside and he's bleeding from his ear and like shaking on the ground every once in a while. Like, oh, he had a seizure and died.
I didn't love this.
Ren goes to prison after
I didn't love this scene.
The fight?
Yeah, it felt like, Roadhouse has just come out, like kind of thing.
I think Roadhouse was a couple of years away.
Oh, was it? Yeah, but you know what I mean, right? I mean, like it feels
right.
It feels so of the era of the 80s. like we need a fist fight to finish this off kind of thing. Pretty obligatory,
yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yes. And you have to seal this thing with Chuck and just be done with it. And it's not enough that, that they convince the Reverend at the part and that the dance is happening and stuff. It's just that, Chuck has to have his like comeuppance. Like you've got, and my thing is like, why not just have them like, they get pissed. They're not going to the party. They're not going to the dance. They go out drinking. They get hit by a train. Like, just give them something, like, just kidding.
Dude,
just watching.
No, I'm fucking down for that. But dude,
I'm down for that.
Roadhouse is 5 years away from this movie. What the fuck?
Yeah. I was like, wait, what are you showing? This is like almost 1990 when
it was the 1989.
Look at the mullets in that thing.
That's true.
The longer the decades of the 80 gets, the bigger the mullet gets. So by 89, their necks were like having like trouble holding their heads up. They just ended
up looking like fucking Chewie from like Wookiees.
Yeah,
oh shit.
So they come back in. Hey, I thought this was a party. Let's dance. Apparently what happened at the end of this, because it always has been a little jarring to me that the town has no dancing, but these people are amazing dancers. And I'm not the only person to point this out. Apparently what happened was the ending was them like just dancing in slow motion. And that was kind of the end of the movie. And the pace of the movie just kind of like, just kind of dropped, because people were wanting, something kind of upbeat there at the end. And they shot it in slow-mo, hated it, brought everybody back 2 weeks later and shot it with like professional dancers in LA or whatever, and shot it on a soundstage. I'll give it to you though. These dancers are fucking awesome though. I really, really like the dude who does like the teeth, like thing. And the guy doing the Russian, like, dancing and shit. This really, really stuck out in my head as a kid. And I love this tall, skinny ass white dude who's like jellyfish arms. I love it, man. It's so good. I know you love it too. I was waiting for you to jump in and be like, I can do this. I can do that.
Yeah, again, like I watched this movie and I'm just like, okay.
You know what, fuck it, guys, that's Footloose. I'm tired of hearing this shit. I'm tired of hearing this fucking shit. We didn't take a break. I gotta take a piss. He hates this movie. I hate his life. Goodbye. No, I'm just kidding.
But here's the thing.
No, but we're pretty much here. Yeah.
You did do what you said you would do at the start of this episode, which is move me towards the positive end of the spectrum of this movie. And I'm not saying it's
dancing in the sheets.
Yeah, fuck you, dude. I'm not saying that it's 100% positive right now. It's probably like, if I was to score this a 6 at the first time I saw it, probably be like a 7 now. It's like it's going up a little bit.
Yeah, 6.5, 7.
Like I think,
okay. No, I would say I drop it 3 points itself just for dropping that scene. That's fuck you, movie. I love you, but you could have been so much better if you had that scene.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's the tractor race, and then there's some other like choices too. I think like you said, Diane Wiest and John Lithgow really, really elevate this movie, and I think they both might be too good for this movie. They're just kind of like in this movie, and they are so much better in this movie than they have any right to be. I feel like they didn't, they got the script and no one really kind of like told them that it was a trashy teen film. They were just like, we're going to bring our fucking A game to this, Diane.
We're going to bring Oscar performances to this bitch, dude.
Exactly. And that ended up elevating the movie so much further than what it should be. Without them, this movie would be so terrible. So terrible.
Oh, dude. Apparently John Lithgow on that actor-on-actor thing with Kevin Bacon was like all the kids, like Kevin Bacon and Laurie Singer and Chris Penn, they were all really nice and quiet and polite in that hotel. But it was me and Diane Wiest who were like skinny dipping in the pool and like getting fucking hammered and shit. And I was like, that's awesome, dude.
I'll tell you that much. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna fucking lie. I'd smash Diane Weiss. She's a gorgeous woman. What does Brian say? Glenn Close is a handsome woman.
God.
Like, I fucking love that line. But you know what? I think that's kind of shitty on IMDb. It's got like 6.6, which is kind of like what we were talking about. But the whole thing with like, you know, I think on Rotten Tomatoes, I think the one on Rotten Tomatoes, the remake has a better score than the original, or it's almost the same. And I was like, okay, that's just really kind of shows you when it's like, this is not a fair and just system. This is fucking bullshit.
Whoa, it's
They're
69%?
way too close together.
Damn.
Yeah, fuck that. That movie's a piece of shit, dude. I hate it.
Here's the thing. I don't know if I'll watch it or if I'll give it a chance, but I can tell you from the one movie from Craig Brewer that I've seen, which is Dolomite Is My Name, you know, I'm confident about his directing skills.
Oh yeah, it's not. It doesn't look bad. It just feels like an Old Navy version of Footloose. It feels like an Old Navy ad. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I love the way that it cuts to black right after his face, but then fades from black to then, and you hear the boo doo 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 doo. I love that song. It's really really good. But I mean, hey, that's Footloose, man. We were gonna cover it eventually, and like a tooth that needed to be pulled, we got it out of there. No,
it hurt a lot.
I don't even think we have any listener comments on this. I really don't think we do.
This is going to be our lowest downloaded fucking episode ever.
Yes, exactly. For me growing up, this is kind of like every once in a while you pick something like Reservoir Dogs or Training Day, or you do something that's kind of a heavier, more, I don't know, I don't want to say like it's not a better, those are just heavier movies, and Footloose it's fun for what it is. It's definitely left, say whatever you will about it, it has left a cultural impact for sure. Like to be even still being like referenced almost 40 years later in the last Avengers movie, that means it's got some kind of hitting power still. They made a musical out of it. They were talking about making like a TV show. It got a remake, like a bunch of high schools have put it on at some point. And, the thing is, ultimately, it's a product of the 80s. That movie would never get made again because that was a time, too, where, the 60s, 70s, and 80s, especially in the 80s, is where you had the extravagance of, like, choreography, like choreographed dancing with the music video and stuff. And things just got so big. And that's when you saw dancing really explode with some unbelievably talented people at the helm of that. And it's not just like, oh, we dance like how we dance in Dirty Dancing. Now we have people like, spinning on their heads and doing the robot and just doing all types of crazy like Russian jumping jacks and shit. And I think that's what's really cool about it. It's not a movie that ever needed to be remade. I think it's a movie that's the way it's shot is kind of timeless, but the subject matter makes it very 80s. And the thing is, like, I think what Ren says in front of the council, and this is kind of my final thought, I think it sums up a lot of the shit really well, is that Ren was like, it's our time. He's like, there was a time for this law. There was a time for blah, blah, blah. There was a time for blah, blah, blah. But that's basically a line from the Goonies as well. And no, it's our time down here. And that's kind of this 80s feeling of like, we took back the night, like we own the night kind of thing. Like we're taking over. And that's kind of this mentality of, even in Monster Squad, even in Goonies, even a lot of these movies where you have teenagers or kids, Lost Boys, where it's just kind of this thing of like the parents today just don't understand. And that's just a prevailing thing through like a lot of shit through the 80s. Where it's like, we can't go to our parents because, blah, blah, blah. So I think that as far as being a product of its time, this movie could have been a fucking lot worse. It could have been really, really, really bad. But they picked a solid director. It's not something that was like a glorified music video, although sometimes it kind of might feel that way with all the choreography and shit like that. But, it's the fucking 80s. Everybody's doing blow and hanging out with Kevin Bacon and shit. Like, you know what? Fuck it. I love this movie. I unabashedly love this. Mainly because, like you said, I mean, John Lithgow and Diane Weiss, it's such a tight... It's a very tight movie for all the montages and stuff too. If we cut some of those down, this movie would be $1:30 quick.
Yeah, this is sub 80 minutes, dude. Like, I mean, if you cut everything down.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. But I love it, man. You know, I wouldn't even consider it like a guilty pleasure just because I love Kevin Bacon. I think that this is kind of one of the movies that really, really established him. And, you know, he and Lithgow know what kind of movie this is. They both have said, like, yeah, this was our teen thing, like, get some exposure to kind of do what you want. And, you know, that's when you see Kevin Bacon kind of explode after this. You know, I don't think there's any, you know, it's kind of a telltale thing when it's like he does a horror movie, Friday the 13th, and then a couple years later does Footloose, and they're wildly different movies. But Kevin Bacon does tell a funny story. I think it was like the head of the studio or producer. I can't remember who it was, this woman who was like, you know, he just doesn't seem fuckable to me. I just wouldn't fuck him. And Kevin Bacon is telling this on like Jimmy Fallon, and he looks at the crowd and he's like, I mean, I thought I was pretty fuckable. Dude, this crowd explodes. Dude, so many women are like, oh, fucking garble your chick. I fucking gotta do it. Because I love Kevin Bacon. Like, he's just such a charming guy. Yeah. And I think him and Chris Penn and Laurie Singer, everybody really, really knocks it out. And Sarah Jessica Parker. So, you know, I really, really enjoy it. And I unabashedly love this movie.
I'm proud of you.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
No, I think it's a decent movie. I was just a little kind of like let down because there just weren't any surprises in it outside of what I'd already heard, kind of thing. So, like, you know, me having that knowledge of like 27 years of like hearing about this movie and, you know, like what ends up happening, there was nothing in it to kind of like being like, oh, okay, you know, outside of what I brought up, like with John Lithgow and Diane Weiss, that was really surprising, and it got really deep. Like, you know, I really, really appreciated that. But I don't think I'll watch this again.
I'm not surprised by that.
I think. Look, it's good to watch at least once.
It's a bucket list movie.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. And I had a good time talking about it. I think I had a better, like, you know, a lot of the time with these podcasts, we, you know, when we watch a movie and we sit down and we, you know, you and I are kind of like, one of us is a bit, you know, wishy-washy on what we thought about the movie, but we always end up enjoying the podcast, right? Like, I had a great time talking about this, so yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to check out more of us, again, you can find us on patreon.com/midnight double feature. Stop by, rate, review us on iTunes. Give us those 5 stars. If you can't support the show, even at $5 a month for the Patreon, stop by, rate, and review us on iTunes. That helps out, and it's free. You can always find anything at midnightdoublefeature.com. You can find us on Twitter at MDFpod. Shoot us an email, midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. Our Instagram is at Midnight Double Feature. You can find us on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. We also have a group attached to that called the After Party. I think we're rolling about 300 members now, and it's been a lot of fun because now it's picking up. There's a lot of really cool shit coming out. It's where we discuss, you know, news and stuff that we're excited about, you know, and just general kind of topics and questions, and where you guys can kind of hang out and talk about, you know, film related shit, entertainment related shit. Follow us again on our Instagram, our Facebook, all of that stuff. If you ever have any questions, you can, again, find us on midnightdoublefeature.com. And we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're anywhere where, you know, you can get your podcast. I've had a lot of fun doing this. Zoheb, I appreciate you sticking through this fucking thing. I was like, what does a 25-year-old,
27,
you know, kid in Australia, whatever, you're 25. What is a 21-year-old kid in Australia? No, I'm just kidding. And I was like, this movie, he's going to be like, oh my God, this guy's so old. And I think I've proven it with this one.
I'm telling you, dude, what broke me was the tractor thing. I'm just like, because you had such...
Back in my day, we fought the parents off through dance!
Because he had such a fantastic stunt work in that opening kind of like, you know, scene between like the truck and the 2 cars and her going between them. And then you fucking ruined that with the...
Tractor chicken. Why not a BMX like bike ride, you know, on a crazy curvy road or something?
Just
like, I don't know.
Cars.
It's stupid.
Like, I don't...
Right, have them arm wrestling with like brass knuckles on or something. I don't know. Let them play Russian roulette. I don't fucking know.
Russian roulette.
There you go.
Oh my God. All right.
Fucking turn the stakes up on this motherfucker. Guys, thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next episode. Seacrest out.